Today, we have an interview with someone I think you're going to absolutely love. Her name is Holistic Hilda. Hilda Labrada Gore. She's a world traveler committed to uncovering ancient health traditions to restore the energy and vitality of humanity, especially moms and kids. She's visited traditional people groups in Mongolia, Ethiopia, Ecuador, Kenya, Australia, and more. Hilda is the host and producer of the Weston A. Price Foundation's Wise Traditions podcast, and they have over 16 million downloads to date. And she is an integrative nutrition health coach. She is the force behind the Mother Code, 6 Habits of Endless Energy. And Hilda shines brightly and empowers others to do the same. She keeps her feet on the ground and her face to the sun. Hilda, thank you so much for joining us today.
I'm so happy to be here.
It's going to be great.
So I jokingly say that I'm Dora the Explorer 2.0. I speak Spanish and I'm an explorer. I never even watched that show, Steve, to be honest with you, but I was like,
I haven't either.
I like the way she goes around with a backpack and a monkey. And I was like, okay, I'm doing the same thing. Basically, I got this little seed of an idea years ago when I started making the podcast for the Weston A. Price Foundation. I was like, wait, this man, Dr. Weston A. Price, in whose name this foundation was established, researched the healthiest people on the planet, but like 100 years ago. So I thought, why don't I go around and follow in his footsteps and see what I can learn from indigenous people groups around the world who are still holding on to their traditions. So this started for me, I don't know, I guess about 10 or 15 years ago. I started becoming involved with Weston Price Foundation. They're about ancient traditions for good health today. And then about 10 years ago, when I started the podcast, is when I started traveling the world. And I'm so happy and I feel so fulfilled and satisfied because it's not just good for me what I learned, but it's good for people. And I'm sharing it every which way I can.
I love that. I'm doing the same thing. Once you know this information, you can't hold it in. You've got to get all the information out there because there's so much sickness in the world, and so much of it is totally preventable by the food that we eat and the other things that we do that I'm sure you're going to be talking about. But that's why I love what you're doing. I want to help any way we can to get the word out to people that you can take care of your own health, and you'll probably be a lot better off if you do it. Get it out of the physician's hands.
Oh, 100%. And I have so many stories to tell you, but I think I'll start with this one. When I was in Cuba in 2017, I went with my daughter because my father's from Cuba and I wanted to meet his cousin and travel around. And I made it to a bunch of farms, of course. But one of the happiest people I met was a man who was so self-sufficient, Steve. He had his own little farm, and everything he served on the plates when we had breakfast together was from his farm. And he said to me, even if the electricity goes out, which happens a lot in that country, he said, I've got manure that can run the generators to give us what we need here. And I realized, oh my goodness, when people take their food source in their own hands, when they eat locally and they feel secure, they can be happy. And here was a man in a communist country with a lot of scarcity and a lot of issues, and he was overflowing with happiness. He's got his kids nearby. He's got the food on the table. He had everything he needed. So I feel like, why should we in the developed country of the US be any less happy? How can we empower ourselves to live our best lives? And I don't just say it's about longevity, because I have a lot of friends in this space who want to live to 140, 180. That's great. But it's about health span. What's the quality of that life as we're living it? And that's what I'm aiming to do, is for myself to live as healthy and as strong for as long as possible, but also to empower people to do the same.
That's wonderful. And that's true, man. Working in the hospital all these years, it is crazy. There's a huge when people say, I'd rather die happy and die young than to be miserable. They don't realize you don't just die early. We can actually keep you alive longer. And the quality of health is so horrible. You keep eating this kind of food and you end up with liver damage and pancreatic damage and heart damage and kidney damage and everything, even though we can make you live longer. That's why I would say my goal is to die young as late as possible, whatever that's going to be. But I want a high quality life. But so now,
I like that.
From your point of view, do you deal with type 2 diabetes in all these other countries or anything? Do you see that very much as you see here? Because I know it's growing big. And do you ever deal with that as far as the nutrition and the types of things that you tell people about?
Honestly, I've made the effort, Steve, not to talk to people who are eating the modern diet, eating the kind of westernized diet in different parts of the
Mhm.
world, though they exist. Obviously, I've been in remote places in Kenya, for example, where there are Coca-Cola ads painted on the little shanty, the side of this little like wooden shack where they're selling fresh produce, but they're advertising Coca-Cola. It's crazy. So I try to get as far away, like Dr. Price did, I try to get as far away from modernity as possible. And so
Yep.
the people I've met who are still living according to their traditions, who are eating the local, organic, seasonal, traditional foods. I like to call it the lost diet, actually. When they're eating locally, organically, because there's no artificial chemicals or pesticides or herbicides and fungicides in their food, they're eating
Right.
local, organic, seasonal, what's available in the season, and traditional foods that have nourished their parents and grandparents. I don't see type 2 diabetes at all.
Isn't
I
that
see
crazy?
people replete with health. I know. And these are people that the westernized mind, the developed countries would look at and say, oh, those kids need shoes. But then I'm like, wait a minute, they're grounding. And then they're like, they need a better diet. I'm like, do they? Because they're slender and healthy. And
Yep.
so why are we trying to impose our westernized, conventional, industrialized medical model on them when it's not doing us any favors?
Yep, exactly. So what do they eat? How do you describe like the ancestral or the wise traditions? What kinds of things do you eat?
Yeah,
What does that include?
yes, thank you for asking. So I want to back up because I've mentioned Dr. Price a couple of times and I
Oh,
haven't
yes.
explained who he is, and this
Sure.
may be
Yeah.
new information for some people. So basically, Dr. Price was a dentist who was born in Canada, moved to Ohio, and he had a small practice. But he wasn't just a dentist, he was a researcher. So he had a lot of curiosity about what led to chronic illness and issues that he was starting to see in the United States in the 1930s or so. And as he was treating people in his clinic, especially children, he was getting National Geographic magazine, and he kept saying, something's wrong here because the kids in the clinic had crowded teeth, a lot of cavities, poor posture, poor behavior. And he would look in the magazine and he would see these people with pearly white teeth,
Mhm.
straight as the keys on a piano, looking super well. And he was like, wait a minute, I am going to travel the world. He decided, he was like the original Dora the Explorer. He decided to travel the world with his wife, Florence, for about 10 years every summer. He and his wife, Florence, would go to different parts of the world and they researched and found isolated indigenous people groups, meaning they weren't touched by modernity.
Right.
So he wanted to see if these people exist as they had in a magazine. He's like, what are they eating? What is their health like? And he, again, being a researcher, he took extensive notes from people that he met in Kenya, in Alaska, in the South Sea Pacific Islands, in Australia. And the notes ended up in a book called Nutrition and Physical Degeneration. And basically, Dr. Price's conclusion was that people that ate, like I said, the lost diet, local, organic, seasonal, and traditional
Mhm.
foods, and they had plenty of sunshine, vibrant community, their feet were on the ground, so they're getting the positive energy from the earth, like they were thriving and they were fertile and they were optimistic and happy. But the people who departed from those traditional ways would start to see a decline in health. And he was able to document this with photos and with research. He saw people of the same tribe and even blood relatives who were starting to eat flour and sugar and vegetable oils and things that were canned and even
Yep.
coffee, things that weren't from their region. And he was able to document how their health was poorer. And of course, subsequent generations' health was poorer. So he
Right.
documented also that the face structure wouldn't be fully developed so that the jaw was more narrow, and then the kids would be born already at a disadvantage. And then their children's children would follow suit. So he was such an amazing student of what really good health is based on that the Weston A. Price Foundation was established in his name about 25 years ago. So I got involved with them. I was like, let me travel the world. Let me see what I can find out. And I saw the same thing Dr. Price did. To answer your original question,
Yeah.
all over the world, people were eating different things. Of course, the people in Alaska were having a lot of seafood and seal oil and whale blubber and things like that. Whereas in Kenya, it was meat and milk and blood from the goats and the cattle. So it
Yep.
varied depending on the region of the world, but they were still commonalities in those diets, and I can go over those too if you'd like.
Sure. Yeah. Oh, you go wherever you want to go. So what you want to go in what it is. I'm assuming it's mainly what the way I break it up on my podcast and my book is God-made food versus man-made food. If man-made food is nothing but toxins, just chemicals, ultra-processed grains,
Yes.
sugar, everything. God-made food, real meat, real fruit, real vegetables. And then just, if you have conditions, might want to monitor the amount of fruits and vegetables you have because they can increase your glucose and increase your insulin. But what I'm very curious to see what your view is, what you think is what they think is the healthy diet. And don't even have to keep it to nutrition, just all the things like you were talking about, the sun, the grounding, everything else.
Thank you. There are so many factors, of course, but I will start along your same lines. Food is foundational. And basically, the first principle of the Weston A. Price Foundation, they gathered a lot of the commonalities Dr. Price found and they put them together in a guide. It's called the Timeless Principles of Healthy Traditional Diets. But principle number one is that Dr. Price noted everywhere he went, there were no refined or denatured foods. And what he meant by that was they weren't manipulating what God has given us or creating it in a lab. No fake foods, no pseudo foods, no Franken foods. It was all real food that these tribal peoples were thriving on. And you notice, as you were saying, Steve, we're doing the opposite now. Like here we are in a developed country, but we've developed these hyper palatable foods that are great to the taste, but no good to the body. The body can't use what you're putting in it. It can't recognize some of the chemicals in there as food, ascorbic acid and the dyes and the not only petroleum-based dyes, but preservatives, like all the things that we put into food makes it pseudo food and it gives it a long shelf life. I like to say, if it has a long shelf life, it will likely shorten yours. Exactly. So what you want to do is eat more of the food, like you said, that God has given us. The real food. I couldn't be happier. I don't know when this is going to air, but just to say, the new pyramid has come out that Kennedy at HHS has put out. And it's so good. I feel like real food is back. His main motto is eat real food. I was like, thank you, because the pyramid as it was originally dreamed up had at the base of it, and this is probably in the 70s or 80s, but it had at the base of it like 9 to 11 servings of grains, I believe, or 6 to 11 servings of grains. But that was what they were saying should be the brunt of our diet.
Yep. And actually, that's so the base of our disease.
Oh my gosh, good point. And I would imagine, yes, diabetes, right? Because it's going to spike your insulin and all the things and spike your glucose. And it's going to lead to this kind of cascade of ill health, poor health. Now, I'm not saying grains don't have a place. The Weston A. Price Foundation recommends preparing them traditionally. So sourdough bread might be a good choice. It's going to have a lower glycemic index and it makes more of the nutrients more bioavailable. It neutralizes the anti-nutrients. The same goes for nuts, seeds, beans, and legumes. They can be prepared in such a way as to be more beneficial. But really, the nutrient-dense foods are the simple single ingredient foods that God gave us that need little to no processing, meaning like milk and meat and butter and cheese and just the very simple things that we can lightly process just to transform them, the cream into the butter, for example, just churn it a bunch and you're good. So we need to return to these foods that really not only help our bodies function properly, but are satiating. So I do want to speak to the listener who's, man, I've been listening to Steve for a while. I love his show, but gosh, open up a box of cookies or a bag of crackers and I just can't stop. There is a reason you can't stop because your body's saying, this tastes good. There must be something in here that's going to nourish me deeply. Keep going. So you're getting the signal from the stomach to the brain or from the mouth to the brain saying, keep going. And so you feel like you can't help yourself because the body's craving something that's never come. It's promised, but it isn't delivered in those foods that are just having, again, that long shelf life that shortens yours.
Exactly. And that it's so horrible. And they know that's why I can't stand it. They know this. They knew it's actually studied, made sure that they know there's that bliss point of just how sweet. They don't want it too sweet, but they put sugar in everything because they know. And that's what people don't realize. It may taste good in your mouth, but just as soon as you swallow it, everything that happens after that is toxic. It totally is tearing up our bodies. And the food companies know that, and they're making this food so it tastes so good that you truly do get addicted. It does. The pleasure center, the nucleus comes in your brain. Glucose actually stimulates that the same way cocaine does. They know what they're doing by making us do that. I'm trying to get out to everybody, just because that food's on the shelf doesn't mean you need to eat it. And just because you can eat food, fruits and vegetables here all year long doesn't mean you should either. Eat them seasonally. And that's why it's so great about these people are growing their own. And that's what I tell people, buy your food from the local farmer. Give your money, you're voting with your money. Give it to the local farmer. That way, the fruits and vegetables, they are in season because they're there. And then check out with the farmer. Do they spray chemicals on it? Do they not? But don't buy food from the grocery store. That's not food. Like you said, that's Frankenfood. And it's there for one reason, and that's to make them money. And it's making them a lot of money. So I love that you said that.
And you're right. How do they say, the cards are stacked in the favor of the house, or I would say the food companies, because you're right. Yep. They do their research to make the food hyper palatable, but also, you might not know this, they actually study like how many handfuls you'll get from a bag of chips, for example. They study the hand to mouth ratio, like the amount of crunch. That it's all not only studied, but perfected, so that we do become addicted. Like you said, it can be more powerful than cocaine. That center of the brain lights up when you get that hit that sweet spot that the scientists have been studying. So it may take some time, I think, for the average person to extricate themselves from that hyperpalatable treadmill, so to speak. Right. And I will say, my husband, he was on it. He didn't realize it. He was a stress eater. And he'll probably listen to this podcast. He doesn't mind my saying, but he was a stress eater. He was an athletic director of all things, but he was so busy working to make sure every team had all this uniforms they needed and the officials at the right time and the lights and the field and all the things, that he was putting himself last. And so at the end of the day, what did he want to do? He didn't want to do anything more than watch TV and just munch on something that would make those pleasure centers light up and reward himself. Once he left that position, he realized what bad shape he was in, and he started making some changes. And he left for a time everything that had gluten in it and everything that had dairy. And of course, Dr. Price found that a lot of people groups still had these in the diet, but he needed to avoid some of the inflammatory effects of these foods. And he really honed in, almost became carnivore-ish. And he lost like 50 pounds, and he feels better than ever now. I'm so proud of him. But we can get in these cycles, like I said, this treadmills. I would start with finding the satiating fats. Even Dr. Price, I was reading a book on his life recently called A Life of Weston Price by Ann Wellman. He said, if I could just recommend one thing, it would be butter. So I really do think when people are satiated by healthy animal fats like butter or tallow or even lard, and sure, olive oil and coconut oil, more of the natural oils as opposed to the seed oils that are highly processed and basically
horrible for you.
Oxidative stress, all that stuff. But if you satiate yourself with butter, you're going to be more satisfied quickly, and you're not even going to have room for what, before you always had the habit maybe of ice cream late at night. You're not going to have room for that anymore. You're going to be so satiated. So I do like to say, like my friend Sally Fallon Morell says, the head of the foundation, she says, get your fat straight. So if people get their fat, they'll feel so much better. As a matter of fact, I will tell you a little story. When I went to Mongolia, and this was in, I think, 2023, with my friend Mary Ruddick. She had some connections there. We got to meet some Kazakh eagle hunters. So just to paint the picture, Mongolia is one of the most sparsely populated places on earth. It's between Russia and China. It's really rugged and rough out there. People live in yurts. They're like these gurs, these small circular homes, and it's almost like every man for himself. So you just got to make do out there. And we would travel. I flew to Turkey and then to Ulaanbaatar, the capital of Mongolia. And then we took another little plane to Western Mongolia. Then we took like a Russian van. Like it took a lot of work to find these Kazakh eagle hunters. But that time we got to them, it was amazing, Steve, because you know what they were eating? It was just what they had available. And what do you have available in rugged Western Mongolia? It was only products derived from milk. So they had like curd cookies, like literally things made out of curds, and tea with yak butter in it or yak milk, and animal fats and meats. That's all there was. And these people are so hardy. The Mongolians have a reputation for being the ones with the expanding empire over the centuries. They were strong, and they're still hardy, those that are still clinging to those traditions. I was so impressed. And I ate brains right out of the goat's skull that they were serving me at one dish. And I was like, okay, this is the way to go. And the thing is, they have very little temptation, I would say, because the capital city is so far away. It takes a day to get there by motorcycle, if not 2 days or something. So they just make do with what they have. And our problem is cheap food is very quick and easy to obtain from the swipe of an app like DoorDash or Uber Eats to a big special at the corner supermarket of 5 bags of chips for $5. But I will tell you something. My mom told me, may she rest in peace, lo barato sale caro, which means what's cheap ends up being expensive in the long run. And it will cost you your health. So we don't want to buy cheap food. We want to invest in the best so that we don't have to go to the doctor later.
And it's not just health. I mean, it is health, but what goes along with that is the cost of all the prescription medication you're going to be on, the cost of all the doctor's visits you're going to go to, all the hospitalizations. It's crazy how they've done this. All these people, they really need to figure that in, because that's the first thing people say, oh, it's so expensive to eat healthy. And it is not. That's just an excuse people use. It is more expensive than one thing. But if you look at the nutrients that you're getting in just, say, a ribeye steak versus the nutrients you're getting, you're going to have to buy a ton of stuff, which people do. They buy a ton. And like you said, with the being hungry all the time, that's all the GLP-1s that are out there now that are making people where they just don't eat at all. It's like, when you don't eat at all, you're eating your body from the inside out. Your body still is going to get the nutrients to save its organs. So yeah, it's going to eat the fat for its energy, but it's also going to eat your muscles for protein. These people are wasting away. They vitamin deficient, mineral deficient, but now they're muscle deficient also. So they have them looking at the weight. And if they, just like you said, if they eat the meat and the fat, that will keep you feeling full. Glucose, carbohydrates stay in your stomach for what, 30 minutes to an hour. And then they go in your intestines at about another 30 minutes to an hour. And that's why when you eat carbohydrates, you're usually hungry again in about 2 to 3 hours. That's by design. The food companies, that's how they make their money. But you eat fat and meat. I haven't eaten since 6 o'clock last night. And what is it now? No, 2 o'clock the next afternoon. I'm not even hungry. It's like, you don't have to take a toxic drug to keep you feeling full. Just eat God-made food. But anyway, that's my rant.
Oh my gosh, I love that so much. No, it's wonderful. It's wonderful. I'm on the same page exactly. And I was going to say, we forgot to also mention the pain people are in. You've hinted at it with what you're saying with people on peptides, but I have a friend who he's getting all kinds of teeth issues. And you might be like, oh, poor thing, I guess he's unlucky. No, he's eating foods that are pseudo foods, like we were saying, that are causing him pain. They also cause, it's not just the doctors and the prescription bills, but it's how you feel. Like, wouldn't you rather feel energetic? And also meat, by the way, I think one reason, as you've suggested, that we don't have access or haven't understood what a good diet is, because there's certain people that only profit when we're ill, but we are more docile and able to comply with whatever power wants to keep us under its thumb when we are eating a nutrient poor diet. So I think there was a study done on children in some section of Africa, and the meat eaters had wonderful cognitive and leadership skills, but the kids that got little to no meat didn't have that. And so I think one reason they said it was for our heart's sake. But the truth is, when people started following the old pyramid, or even Michelle Obama's My Plate, that didn't decrease the amount of heart attack or diabetes or anything, right?
Nope.
So that's why I feel quite encouraged by this recent step of this new pyramid, because at least the motto is eat real food. And that was exactly what Dr. Price was about. He saw this. He was prescient. He saw this 100 years ago. So now is the time for us to go back to the future, but actually this time I go back to the past for an idea on how to live healthily today.
Yep. Oh, I agree 100%. I'm so thankful that he came out with this new pyramid. The other one would just drive me crazy. And they do, like I said, they do this on purpose. I know they're making a lot of money. Nobody's making money off healthy people. There are some, the ones who do.
That's right.
Whatever. But they are making so much money off of keeping people sick. And that's what all that frankenfood does. So I was also wondering, besides that.
I know. And it's.
Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to talk about, what are the other things? What do you think real far, as far as sun and grounding and the things that you think are really important?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you for asking. I guess just to riff off what you were saying, inflammation is a huge problem and it does have dietary sources. I think stress can also lead to that as well. Like I said, my husband was inflamed, not just because of the diet, but because of his cortisol level being jacked all the time. So this is where grounding and sunlight comes in. I think it was Bruce Lipton that I interviewed for the Wise Traditions podcast who said that we're like these little batteries and we get charged from below and from above. And I like that. And it stuck with me because I'd seen it. So again, when I was in Ethiopia, this was in, I think, 2024 with Mary Ruddick, we went to visit 5 tribes along the Omo Valley. And these were some pretty poor people who were living isolated from modern lifestyles, which I thought was good. And you were asking, what did they eat? They ate a mix of things, but they had, I think, was it called sukumawiki? They had some kind of like collards that they made and they prepared. They had some grains. I hope they prepared them properly. I didn't really see, but it was very modest. And then their spouses or the men in the tribe would go hunt in the fields. So they were having this really natural, really local food. At the same time, every single person I met was barefoot. So they were getting the benefits of the negative charge of the earth. I like to sometimes call it blueberries from the earth because the earth wants to offer us antioxidants, which are anti-inflammatory. And that charge coming from the earth can kind of grab hold of any free radicals, which are cancer causing in the body that could come from the diet or from stress or different things. And they latch onto them, they neutralize them. So the earth gives you a negative charge that gives you positive energy is another way I like to put it. So get those free radicals, not free radicals, sorry, get that free negative energy from the earth that gives you a positive charge. If this makes any sense at all, I'm just trying to say, we go barefoot mostly when we're kids and then we stop. Right. I really make an effort to go barefoot, even in the winter with wool socks on when I can, because the earth is offering us something that's a gift. And then the sunlight. I got to talk to Dr. Jack Cruz, my friend Thaddeus Owen, and other experts like Matt Maruka from optics. Oh my gosh, Jack Cruz, he's amazing. He's brilliant. It's hard to get him to tether down to earth a little bit, but be that as it may, he is I think he was a neurosurgeon. And I don't know if you know this, but he had his aha because I think he broke a bone or something. And he's like, wait a minute, I'm performing surgery. This is my paraphrase of his story, right. But I'm performing surgery on these people and I'm a wreck. Like he was brilliant, but he was falling apart. He was overweight. He was unhealthy. And then he realized, oh my goodness, my light hygiene is a wreck. He wasn't getting any natural light. He was always under the harsh fluorescent lights of the hospital system. And so he turned his life around and now he helps other people do the same. He was the one that told me, you need to get outside. You need much more natural light. I was a health coach. I was maybe even a podcaster at the time I was, and I didn't know this simple piece that the spectrum of light that we get in the early morning hours, right after sunrise, within 30 to 45 minutes of sunrise, is so healing. There's no UVA or UVB in that spectrum. It's a particular kind of shades of light, if you want to put it that way, that inform the body about melatonin production and release that helps us sleep better, hormonal function, energy, metabolism, all these things. And so instead of getting a cup of coffee in the morning, Steve, what I do ever since I talked to Jack Cruz and my friends, this is like 2018. So yeah, 7 or 8 years ago, I now get out within 30 to 45 minutes of sunrise. I spend a good 30 minutes to an hour out there every day. You don't have to do more than 10 or 15, but I like to take everything to the nth degree. Sure. But anyway, I'm taking in all that good sunlight spectrum and I feel younger, more energetic, more rejuvenated than ever before. I sleep great. Like it's just amazing. So if someone's listening is like, you know what, I've heard Steve for a while. I can't change my diet worth beans. Start with the sun because this is part of your diet too. Your lifestyle, as a friend of mine says, is your medicine. So try it. I was a certified night owl. I was like up late at night. I'm Latina. So I was like, this is in my genes. I'm going to just work at 2 a.m. when all my kids are in bed and get some things done. And I just thought, wow, that's how I'm wired. No, I did not know. The light from my laptop when I was doing emails at 2 a.m. was telling my body it was midday instead of midnight. Right, so my body was responding to the signals. So what I do now is I get the morning light, I get light during the day, and at night I put on blue blockers so that I can limit the blue light so it mimics the firelight our ancestors would have been sitting around. Yes, the ground and the sun are really important factors for our well-being as well.
And they're just now finding out so many things of all the different spectrum of colors, all the different rays, and all the how they actually affect the organs on the inside of your body too. Now that we've opened this up and we're finding so many, which only makes sense. God has sun that's out here. Everything lives off that. All the plants need that. The water needs that. The tides, everything, the fish. Why would we think that this is horrible? And if you do go out in it, make sure you lather yourself up with all these chemicals that keep the sun from penetrating your skin. It's absolutely crazy what's happened. And like you said, I think a good morning, if you just wake up in the morning and do like you said, walk barefooted outside. So you're getting the grounding with the barefoot. You get the sun, so you get the rays on your skin, plus the sun at a certain level of your eyes. That's like you said, it's going to stimulate the cortisol. And at night, watching the sun goes down, that's what stops your cortisol, and that's what gets your melatonin going. So you have a good night's sleep. It's peaceful. You're relaxing. If you like listening to something, listen to a book or just listen to nature is the most relaxing thing. But just after a half hour in the morning doing that, you come back and you're like, oh my gosh, I feel so refreshed. Versus taking your kids and giving them all these fruit juices and oatmeal and biscuits and whatever, and then sending them off to school. And now they're inside the house here, they're inside the house there. They've just loaded themselves up with nothing but toxins and glucose, which is going to get turned straight into fat. And then they're all wired. And then you're asking them to sit down, come up with another routine, get up, go outside, do something fun or relaxing for your kids. And then when they go to school, they're not going to be all hyper like that. Feed them good scrambled eggs and sausage or
Yes.
animal-based products.
Oh, I love that so much. If I could go back in time, I know you're not asking me this, but I will just say, so I had 4 kids in 5 years. I was like an accordion with my womb in and out and in and out. But anyway, I had 4 kids in 5 years, and I felt like my kids were always hungry because, Steve, at the time, I did not know about fats and protein and how important they were.
We didn't either.
So, for example, after school, I joke around, I would give them the stick diet. It was carrot sticks, it was pretzel sticks, it was fish sticks, but it was never anything substantial that would nourish them. So, of course, they wanted another snack and another snack. And I thought, how many snacks do my kids want? After a while, I'd be like, okay, the kitchen is closed. Now I look back and think, gosh, if I just known about butter and meat and really satiating my kids. Like you said, the carbs tend to be like kindling on the fire, and the protein and fats, it's like the logs. So if you want to let it burn for a long time, you have a little kindling. It's okay. I'm not saying you can't have, like you said, fruits and vegetables or some sourdough crackers or what have you, but you want the brunt of your diet to be the fat and the protein. That's how our ancestors lived before they became agriculturalists. So that's really important. So if I could go back in time, I would change that, but I can't. And so I do want to talk to the mamas who might think, Hilda, you're crazy. I can't get out in the morning sun. Like, I'm trying to sleep in because my baby's 6 months and still teething. Okay, I get it. Just get out when you can. I always say, for example, with your diet, do the best you can within your budget. If you're like, my husband doesn't want me buying organic, grass-fed, grass-finished beef. Okay, just get the ground beef from Safeway. Just do the best you can where you're at, mama. And so also get outside when you can. If your kid's having a meltdown, ask yourself, what have they eaten so far today? But then also ask yourself, maybe we just all need to get outside for 5 minutes. Your kids will follow you. I always love to say, more is caught than taught. So they will go outside. If you go outside and put your feet on the ground, they're going to do the same thing. They might be like, where's mom going? They'll join you or they won't, but they'll be sorry if they don't, because you might see a butterfly, you might catch a worm, there might be all kinds of things you'll get out there. So really set the tone in your household by this example. That's what I suggest.
Yeah. And that's what we did. Play games with the kids, and we'd go out, we'd play tag, we'd swing them, we'd play catch. Just get out there and just do fun things out in the sun. And I know kids today get tired of hearing that. Back when we were kids, we were outside from the time we got home until the sun went down, and a little bit after that. But it's true, kids do not. And when they aren't around the sun and they're not getting healthy things to eat, and they're not grounding, and they're not getting all these other things, we are setting our children up to be extremely sick people when they're in their teens and 20s. And that's what we're starting to see, as kids are getting sicker and sicker.
So I've come to realize moms are the most stretched people on the planet, I think, in terms of they give their bodies away to these little babies in utero first, right? And then they nurse them and they nurture them. Moms make a house a home. But when they're stretched so thin that they feel like they're at a breaking point, that's not good for them. It's not good for the family. It's not good for their the children or their children's children. They really, as I said earlier, set the tone for the home. So my desire is to pour into them so that they can be their most resilient, their most peaceful, their most joyful self. And like I said, I had a bunch of kids all at once, so I know how busy those years can be. So yeah, I designed the mother code originally. I made it just a simple for everybody, 6 ancestral secrets for health for the long haul, which is wonderful. But then I thought, no, moms need this the most. So the way I'm designing it, Steve, is so moms can not only take this little course, which offers, again, 6 ways for them to have endless energy based on ancestral wisdom, but also I have little worksheets in there so they can invite their kids to join them. What does it look like to make, getting outside a game? What does it look like to have good sleep hygiene, or light hygiene, ways in which the kids can join them? Because like I said, more is caught than taught. And I don't want the mom to be like on her last nerve. And trust me, I've been there. The most frequent prayer I uttered when my kids was little, when my children were little, was, which is God give me patience, because it was always wearing thin with one more request and one more thing. But I think the stronger and more resilient the mom is, the more she has from which to draw to give the children, right? So you can handle one more cry for mom when you're in the bathroom, or one more bid for a glass of water before bed, or whatever it's going to be. So yeah, I've designed this to help moms. And I'm happy to say that the moms that have taken the course so far are like, I wish I'd done this 20 years ago, even before I had kids. They're finding that they have more energy and resilience as I hoped. And the secrets, because I like alliteration, I go by Holistic Hilda. They're really simple. They all start with the letter S. It is sunshine. It's what I like to call shivers, experiencing the elements. And I can go into that later if we have time. Sustenance, so nourishing ourselves deeply. Sleep, as we've discussed, is really important. And I know that's not easy when the baby's crying and you're still in baby boot camp, what I like to call this first 6 weeks of when you had a baby. It's really hard to get a decent amount of shut eye. But we talk about how to leverage what you do get so it's profound and restorative. Then there's also strength, aspects of movement that are important, obviously, to stay well and strong and healthy. And then the last is spirit, because what good is it if we eat all the right foods and we're getting all the sleep we need, but we're feeling downcast, depressed, and anxious? So I talk about things of the spirit. And as a Christian, this, of course, means a lot to me because I came to faith as a young girl. I had a very shaky start to life. And so I realized, oh my goodness, like this body is a gift from God. And I want to do my best to have it stay strong and healthy for as long as possible. And then as I got older, I thought, okay, I want other people to do the same. Have I told you my story of how I was born with a birth defect? So basically, it's like hard to believe. Even now, I'm like, wait, is this true? It's true. How did I get to live so long, by the way? I'm so happy. I'm like 64, but I feel the opposite. I feel 46, if not younger still. But what happened was my mom, when I was in utero, got the German measles. And if a pregnant woman, even today, gets exposed to the German measles, it can affect the baby. And the doctors told her, oh no, your baby is going to be born with a serious birth defect, unable to see or speak or hear. And they recommended she not have me at all. She was like, oh no, I'm having this baby. And I'm so glad she decided that. I'm so happy to be here. And it wasn't until I was right. I was like, wow, I made it. I'm here. 2 months in, I was only like around 2 months old. The doctors detected a problem with my heart. And indeed, there was a hole in my heart between the lower 2 ventricles. So blood was backwashing, if you will. It wasn't flowing in the direction it should flow. I wasn't oxygenating properly. They call babies with this condition blue babies. So they monitored me for years, Steve. I was in and out of the hospital. They were doing x-rays. They were doing catheterizations. They were trying to figure out, is the hole going to close up on its own? And when it did not, at the age of 9, they performed open heart surgery on me. And so it was scary. I didn't know what to expect. I was nervous. I woke up and I had this huge scar on my chest, but I also had a new lease on life because I realized, okay, now the hole is fixed. And the doctor said I could do whatever I wanted. So I was like, first, I want to thank God. And notice this is almost the shape of a cross.
That's
right. I was like, I'm going to thank God. He spared my life in the womb and then using the surgeon's skill. But now I'm going to do my best to glorify God in my body. And so I started teaching exercise classes as I got older. And then I got into this health and wellness space. And I'm so glad I did. And I realized, like you do, God's food, real food, is the one that nourishes. And there are also such simple, practical, and mostly free things we can do for the good health that is our birthright.
Yep. That's wonderful. That's amazing, especially when you were 9 years old. That's quite the procedure way back then. I know we see those
Yeah.
fairly often. I've seen several of them. Good. That's my specialty was pediatrics. That's what I did my residency was
Oh,
pediatrics. So we saw several babies like that. Not a ton, but that was all mainly recently here. Not when you were 9 years old. So I'm amazed that lasted. You definitely had God on your
it was a
side.
big deal. It was a big deal, absolutely. And now you're right, they can do this procedure. They sewed up the hole of the ventricular septal defect. They could do it now, I think, in utero. But in my time, back in the day, like they had to cut me open, the solar plexus, like all the
Oh,
things,
no.
open me up, put my body on ice, which is one reason I think I like cold plunging. But anyway, they put me on ice to slow all the functions down while they sewed up the heart and then put it back in me. Can you imagine?
Man, no, that's crazy. That's amazing. There's still, and this isn't anything on the physicians. That really isn't. It just the training
I know.
and all the training is
I know.
coming from people who have lots of money wanting to come their way. But
And they don't even realize, because God bless the doctors and nurses. I just want to say they don't even realize because they think, okay, they see some patient come in with these symptoms and their practice tells them, oh, this person has this symptom, they need this pharmaceutical. But we're not pharmaceutical deficient. God
right,
made us
right,
beautifully. And what if what they see as a symptom, let's say I have a migraine, I've never had a migraine actually, but let's just say that was a problem. It's a signal my body is sending me that something is wrong. But
exactly.
rather than taking the time to perceive what could cause or provoke this migraine, they just give us meds to tamp down the symptoms. And so it's this
Yep,
vicious cycle where, as we were saying earlier, it's of profit for the sick care system, but it's not of profit for the patient who goes from practitioner to practitioner, physician to physician, trying to figure out how can I get rid of this problem. And they're just given band-aids instead of a
yeah,
root cause cure. And that's where, yeah, we need to dive deeper. That's why I'm grateful for this alternative health movement. Is let's get back to some of the basics. Like with my course, for example, and with these 6 ancestral secrets, I'm not saying it can reverse an autoimmune condition, but it can certainly get you to the starting line again instead of way back here, dependent on a lot of different pharmaceuticals or even over-the-counter medicines. Like I think, like I was saying earlier, our life is our medicine. And I want to invite
yep.
people to step into that power.
And our bodies, God made our bodies so amazing, man. It's lived for centuries. If you just give it the nutrients it needs, give it the nutrients. And people, they just don't even know about nutrition anymore. They don't even know what nutrients are. So they don't think anything about giving them toxins. But once you start giving your body nutrients instead of the toxins, it's amazing. You don't have to be taking all these antibiotics and all these antifungals and all these everything, diabetic medications, which is also just symptomatic treatment because they treat the symptom of high blood glucose. And the way they do it is all diabetic medications work by increasing your insulin, which is the root cause of diabetes. And that was on purpose. That they actually made I go in back in the 80s and 90s, they didn't make any new diabetic medications because they said there weren't enough diabetics. And since that time, they come up with an average of one new diabetic medication every year for the last 25 years. All the way through the 1900s, all we had there were 7 different medications, 2 classes, and then 7 medications encompassing those 2 classes for diabetes. And now we have 6 classes and 35 different diabetic medications. And it's on purpose because they have everybody focused on the glucose. And so they give them the diabetic medications, makes the insulin get higher, which makes diabetes worse. And they are making a killing off of it. And that's what my whole podcast, that's what my book and everything is about. Instead of trying to figure how do you get the glucose down, just why is it going up in the first place? And there's only there's 2 reasons why your glucose goes up. Stress, which we've talked about, that'll make your glucose go up because it takes it out of your stores. You don't have that many stores. The only other way is you eat it. So if you're diabetic, just stop eating it. It really is that simple. And if you stop all man-made food, you're going to be so far ahead of everybody else. Just that one thing. And how you eat the God-made food, that's going to be up to you, but stick with the God-made food. You'll be a lot better off. I also didn't want to forget.
I do have a resource. Okay, let's get to what you're going to say in a second, but the resource for finding real food, some people are like, gosh, I live in a food desert. It's possible, but it's also possible there may be food near you. I have 2 resources, actually. One is through the Weston A. Price Foundation. You go to westonaprice.org. It's free, by the way. You click on Find Food or Local Chapters, and all through the U.S. and the world, there are volunteers whose only job is to give people a resource list of where they can find real food in their area, whether it's farmers markets, drop off points from farms, and the like. So that's wonderful. That's a free resource.
That
And then
is
the other one is
wonderful.
Farm Match, which I jokingly say is like Tinder with farms. But basically, Farm Match, my friend Max Payne set it up. It's so great. All you do is go to farmmatch.com. And I think you get a discount on your first order if you get it from my website, holistichilda.com. But the point is, they ask you, what food do you want? You could be like, I want milk, I want eggs, I want meat, whatever it is, broccoli. And then they will help you. They'll match you with farms that have those foods and deliver in your area. Again, they might be at a farmer's market, or they might be at a drop-off point, or it could be straight to your door. It depends on the farm, but Farm Match is a great resource too. So real food is available. And if it's not where you live, maybe you do need to move, because it's that important.
And if you're talking about cost, you've got to look. This is a story I've told my listeners before, but Teresa and I, my wife and I, we were in a grocery store, and this really did happen. We were sitting there, we were checking out, and there was a guy and his son, his teenage son was next to him. And we heard them checking out, and his son goes, my gosh, it costs over $100 for food. And Teresa and I both just looked over in their cart. There was no food in that cart. It was boxes of cereals and breads and cookies and candies and soda pop and fruit juice, and just no food. There was no nutrients whatsoever. It was all this chemical-based stuff. And I think most people do that. If you think about how much, because the food is made to keep you hungry, which keeps you buying it, when you add up all the money you've spent on food all through the day, just in a day, and then compare that to how much you'd be able to buy a good steak, and one steak could be able to hold you for an entire day. You could have more, but the nutrient density is going to keep you full. So it's not a matter of being expensive or not. It's where are you putting your money? And it goes back to you're voting with your money. If you're buying that kind of crap, you're sitting there and you're voting for the food companies to keep putting chemicals and toxins in your body. Buy from a local farmer, and you're voting with your money to keep your local farmer providing the kind of nutrients that our body needs. So
I love that. You can either pay your farmer or pay your physician. I'd rather pay my farmer for sure.
Yeah, exactly. And I didn't know, I know it's getting kind of late. You said that you want to talk about the shivers a little bit. So I didn't know if there was something particular you wanted to talk about shivers. That'd be great.
Just as I was saying before, when I went to Mongolia, at this rugged part of the world, it was crazy. One reason the people were, not just because of the food, but because they were exposed to the elements. Like their day-to-day includes going out to milk the yaks and taking a camel ride over to see the neighbor and the adjacent gur or whatever. But our days are often spent like astronauts under artificial light, artificial flooring, nothing natural. We're not connected to nature at all. So with the shivers aspect of the secrets, I invite moms and others to get outside, whether it's hot or cold or somewhere in between. Like, you might be surprised at how your resilience builds when you become comfortable getting uncomfortable. And again, this is something I learned from Jack Kruse and other experts, but apparently when you do that, it builds the mitochondria in your body. So they are like the little engines that power your cells, and they decrease as you age in number and in strength. So exercises them, works them out a little bit. Oh, we've got to stay alert here and keep the body warm if we're cold and so forth. So it's good in that sense. And it lengthens your telomeres. It helps you live longer. It builds your mental resilience and focus. Like, I often will do a shiver walk. So that means I go outside in colder weather with just shorts. Maybe I'll be wearing a hoodie or something, but I'll either have my legs exposed or my arms exposed with a t-shirt, or both if I'm feeling kind of feisty and I want to go for it. But the point is, I challenge myself. You don't have to get in an ice bath like some influencers do. You don't need some famous or fancy system. You can use the elements to challenge yourself. And as some of my friends like to say, there's no such thing as bad weather. It's just bad preparation. Even if you're all bundled up and you go outside deliberately for half an hour when you'd rather stay inside reading a book or whatever, your body will be grateful. Those mitochondria are working. Even if you're bundled up, your body has to work to keep you warm as well. So challenge yourself. You'll surprise yourself, and your resilience and your patience tolerance will raise.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's awesome. I agree 100%. Yeah, I haven't done the ice bath yet. We've done the cold showers. So we have done that. And it is amazing. You get almost immediately, as soon as you step out, you just feel more clear-headed and, I don't know, rejuvenated in a way. It's weird. Never do like getting in there. There's never time, oh, I can't wait to get in that cold shower. But I'm always glad I did.
Yeah.
So So if somebody wants to get a hold of you, how would they get a hold of you as far as, or how they get a hold of the Weston A. Price, and how they get a hold of you as far as, you said your website's just holistichilda.com?
Yes, holistichilda.com. And then I've got a YouTube channel also called Holistic Hilda. I'm on Instagram at Holistic Hilda. And the Weston A. Price Foundation is at westonaprice.org. And people can also find me on the podcast. It's called Wise Traditions, and it's on any of your favorite podcast platforms.
That is perfect. And Weston A. Price, there's a big convention that goes on every single year with Weston A. Price, right?
Yes, it's called Wise Traditions, just like the podcast. And they're going to have their next conference in DC in October of 2026. So I will definitely be there, and I hope to see any of your listeners there too. It should be amazing.
Oh yeah, we want to go too. We have a lot of friends who actually, some who've spoke there, like we're talking about Bill Schindler and a friend of ours, Rachel Shuck, and some other people that we know spoke there. And
yes,
that's something we haven't been able to go yet, but this year we've set it down. Hack Your Health and Weston A. Price are the two that we're going to go to this year. So I can't wait. I've heard so many good things about it. I can't wait. And you said it's going to be in October in Washington, D.C.
It's phenomenal. And it's not one of those conferences, by the way. Yes, in Washington, D.C. And it's not one of those conferences, I was going to say, where everybody's strutting around super buff and on their creatine and spermidine and all the deans possible. They're just regular people who want to live their healthiest and best lives. So it's really accessible in that way, I think.
That's wonderful. I'm excited about it. We really did. We sat down and thought about, okay, we've been hearing about this for the last 3 years when we finally found out about nutrition, and we've just never thought we'd go. Anything you want to tell the people, or any last statements?
Yeah, I've read a lot of books about change, like Atomic Change, or maybe it's Atomic Habits, but I've read The Change Makers, and I know it's not easy to make some of these shifts. So that's why I've designed this course. Like I said, the Mother Code, if people are interested in doing it. And the secret sauce of it is that I will do personal calls with people to help them set their goals before they start the 6-week course, and then to discuss their wins at the end of it. So if people want to do that, I would love that. But then I'll just also end with this. My favorite phrase that I say at the end of every Wise Traditions podcast is a simple one that is also helpful for health. And it's keep your feet on the ground and your face to the sun.
Oh, I love that. And there's so much deep meaning into that. I love it. Thank you. Thank you so much for coming on and being with me and talking to my listeners, because I know they're going to get a lot of stuff out of this. And I hope they actually use it to make change. That's one of the things that we say is.
Oh, it's been my pleasure, Steve. Thank you so much for having
me. Okay. For listeners out there, until next time, we are done with Hilda for today, but we are not done totally. So please go see her on her podcast, go see her on her website, and don't forget to look up the Weston A. Price. And until next time, stay nourished and stay well.